The SSNA Ovens and Murray Football Netball League podcast, powered by Solar Plus Electrical. Welcome back. I'm Steve Turvitt and you're watching the SSNA Ovens and Murray Football Netball League podcast, thanks to our good friends at Solar Plus Electrical. On this episode we're talking to Max Lynch, new co-coach of the Albury Tigers, and a man whose football career has been a roller coaster to say the least. Very much a latecomer to the sport, he burst onto the scene and played for both Collingwood and Hawthorn in the AFL, before being told he couldn't play the game anymore. After multiple head knocks, Max ended up in front of the AFL's independent medical concussion panel and was forced to retire at just 24 years of age. I wanted to hear his story. Max, thank you so much for being on the podcast. You're coaching the Albury Tigers with Ryan Garthwaite this year, so how are you feeling about that challenge? And given the club missed finals last year for the first time in 15 years, what's your brief for 2025?
I suppose really excited first and foremost. I spent a year away from footy and just found that there's nothing else like it, sort of thing. So keen to get back into it, and was doing it by myself for a few months there, and with the recruiting side of things. And then obviously when Garthy signed on, I've known him a long time and thought we'll be a really good fit together. So when he was keen to co-coach with me, I was very, very stoked. But in terms of the boys missing finals last year and things like that, it's obviously not what you want from a club's perspective, and it's a very foreign feeling, I think, for the Tigers in general, like members and fans and players involved in the footy club. So I think, but it could almost be a blessing in disguise. Like, first time in 15 years, haven't made it, sort of got that fire in the belly to get back to where we know that we belong, sort of thing. So, and I myself has been involved at this footy club in those real peaks, but I was never a player in those games. Like, I was always in the thirds when the seniors were killing it, sort of thing. So I'm very keen, because I've seen it from afar. Like, I'm very, very keen to be a part of it in whatever way I can.
You will have played under varying personalities in your career. What approach do you want to bring to your own coaching?
I'm a real strength-based coach. I think that's something that I really got from Sam Mitchell, in particular, that he was very blatant with it as well, about saying that if you're good at something and then you don't do it, he's going to be far more mad at you than if you're not a contested marking player and you get done in a contested mark, he'll be fine with it. But if you're a really fast player and you don't run fast, he'll be really flat with you, sort of thing. So I'm pretty similar to that, that along with just having a crack. Like, if you're trying to do the right thing or you're trying to put in heaps of effort, I'm happy. So if you try and go for a kick that's on and you try your best at it but you miss the kick, I'm not going to be flat with it. But if you don't and you shy away and try and go conservative and kick towards a boundary or something like that, then I'm probably more disappointed, I suppose. So I try and be a really strength-based coach and really try and build those relationships, and it's pretty easy to do that when everyone involved at this footy club is a good person, first and foremost.
A lot of these boys will have grown up idolising their favourite footballers on TV and dreaming of making it to the top one day. That wasn't really your thing, was it?
Nah, my mum and dad and sister didn't have anything to do with footy. I mean, an uncle of mine played, but I was never around watching him play, sort of thing. So I started playing soccer and played soccer my whole life, and that's what my family was really involved in. And my dad's massively into motorbikes and surfing and skateboarding and that sort of stuff. So was never really into it. But then sort of got to a big 16-year-old that was getting a bit grumpy and getting sick of people getting yellow cards in soccer, sort of thing, that I wanted to sort of crash and bash a little bit more, and swapped over to country footy and sort of built from there.
I've heard you in another interview describe yourself as a bit of an angry young man, an angry teenager. What was going on there?
No, I mean, nothing nothing too bad. I mean, I just get frustrated, I suppose, and I suppose a lot of young men as well, like trying to find an outlet that's positive, I suppose, that can go a lot of different ways. So finding something that I'm just, a bit frustrated or feeling these big emotions and not knowing how to get them out, I suppose. And that's what footy's so good for such a lot of people, that you out there, you work really hard, the culture around it about working hard and then like hanging out with your mates afterwards. I really like that side of things. So it's a little bit different sometimes in soccer, being that it's there's not really, it's more technical, I suppose, that there isn't that sort of physical crash aspect where, like blokes of all ages, like your kids in the primary schools and whatever that I'm teaching at as well, just love a wrestle with their mates at lunchtime. Like, it's sort of similar the whole way through.
So footy was a good fit for you, and particularly by the time you got here to the Tigers?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, played a year in Junior Bulldogs, which was unreal, and that's where I grew up, and then come into the Tigers, and then it's just sort of that step up in terms of professionalism and the calibre of player that comes through this footy club. And so I had some really good experience here, and then year of Bushies, and then drafted. So it was a pretty quick turnaround with that sort of stuff.
What are your memories then of your first spell here? What was happening, who was here, and how your development came along?
I remember the midfield being like Joel Mackey and Chris Hyde and Dean Polo and that sort of stuff, and Shawnee Daly obviously around at the time as well, and he was coaching through one of those periods that I was here. And I just remember thinking that these blokes, like especially your Heidies and Polo, being like played in the elite level, and then coming back here and sort of looking at them from afar. Like, I was still in the third, so looking at them from afar, or just the trainings that I'm involved in, and seeing how they sort of go about it, and their work ethic and that sort of stuff. I think that's sort of the thing that I took away from it. And when I get to Bushies, and when you're at this sort of footy club and playing against the blokes that were here, then going, and they're like grown men, and then go to play in the Bushies, and it's against people my own age, it sort of shows you the levels a little bit. So I wasn't too arrogant to think that I was like, geez, I'm miles behind these blokes here, so doing good things at Bushies, but I still got a long way to go.
So given that you were so late to the sport, how did it feel when you were told, or you realised, I'm actually a real chance of being drafted?
Well, it was pretty funny because Trot's my manager, and I got a good relationship with Trots, but he sort of said when I was getting drafted that I could go anywhere from pick 25 to not at all sort of thing. So it was a big range for me, because I thought, I played well enough in my under 18s years, but more so because of a potential to be all right, I suppose. I was a good runner, competitive, but yeah, didn't have the polish, you know what I mean? So it was just a lot of potential, I suppose. So playing on things that I might be good at one day is it's a little bit weird, because I suppose it's sort of a bit of imposter syndrome for me, going that, these blokes have played their whole life, and, I might get touched up one week and then play all right the next. And so that inconsistency, I sort of maybe didn't have that full belief that I was good enough. But then I suppose over time that comes, and get into the AFL system, and then it's your whole life that still came and went a little bit. But probably by my third year, I was thinking, no, I'm good enough.
Okay, so with that in mind, walking into Collingwood on day one for your first training session, what was that like?
Well, I don't know. I moved straight in with Jack Crisp, and he was unreal, and really good to sort of show me the ropes a bit. But I didn't know half the players by name. So I knew Brodie Grundy because I'd studied all the rucks of each club, and I knew Scott Pendlebury because obviously he's the go to the league sort of thing. So I when he came up and said g'day and shook my hand and stuff, I was thinking, oh, this is pretty cool, because obviously I've seen him on telly and he's everywhere. So I thought that part was really, really cool. But in terms of getting to meet the other blokes, I think it was kind of good not knowing who they are and that sort of thing. So I wasn't
then be really overawed by them.
Yeah, exactly. But also on the flip side, that they were really just normal guys. So I think me getting to know them as people is probably what helped me build those stronger relationships, rather than I've seen this bloke on telly my whole life, and then it's probably a bit more surface level, where I think I came in a bit more of an even playing field a little bit, just on the relationships, not on the footy ability.
So living that AFL lifestyle, if I can phrase it like that, for a number of years, again, something that young boys and young girls, dream about and think, I'd love to be in that world. Did you enjoy that? Did it come with challenges?
It definitely came with challenges. I probably because of that imposter syndrome, I think the pressures of AFL and I don't know, how it's your whole life, I probably didn't have that belief in myself, especially when I wasn't playing well enough. I was thinking, oh geez, like I'm getting touched up every week here, and I'm getting ripped in reviews and all that sort of stuff. I was thinking, oh geez, like I'm just not good enough for this sort of thing. And so I mean, it's only after probably 3 years of consistent footy that I've actually started to sort of get the runs on the board to go, oh, I've beaten this bloke or I've beaten this bloke, and then start to actually have a bit of belief in myself.
Who did you go and speak to, or was there someone that you could talk to and say, give me some advice, or how am I going, or did you just have to deal with that by yourself?
Everyone in the AFL, well, everyone in my experience, has a club psychologist, I suppose. So I did a lot of work with them to sort of think about some strategies and that sort of stuff. But I'm very lucky with my family as well. I talk to them a lot. But I lent a lot on just my mates at the footy club first and foremost. But a big one was Brodie Grundy as well, because he'd just absolutely dominate me on the training track, but he'd teach me the whole way as well. So we'd sit down and watch footage together, we'd do our reviews together, and I'd watch his review and he'd watch mine, sort of thing. So I learned a lot off Brodie. I learned a lot. Because it's a bit different when it's a bloke who plays in your position and he's doing those things to you out there. Then you sort of pick up the tricks of the trade a little bit. Whereas I've had a couple of coaches in the past that are 5'3" and saying, Brodie pushes me out of the way, and he's sort of just like, oh, can't you just push him out of the way, sort of thing. And I'm going, well, no. That's sort of what he's doing to me as well. So
what an interesting dynamic though, the bloke whose spot you would desperately love to take, but you're actually quite close and having really productive conversations at the same time.
Well, I suppose it's that competitive nature of footy, that it's sort of when we're out there training, we didn't talk much to each other. We'd take the piss out of each other a lot, but sort of you're just going out there to compete, and then learn from it later. So and you'd see at AFL level, blokes punch on at training all the time because they're just trying so hard in that competitive side of it. But at the end of the day, you're all mates, and you get to know one another and spend a lot of time with each other. So then when it gets to the actual game day, that you've done all that together, but then it's now you've got an opposition to play against. So yeah, he's really good at that he's a very grounded bloke, and I couldn't speak highly enough of Brode. So but then it gets to game day and he's a competitive beast sort of thing, and then that comes out of training as well. You can see every now and then that I think, he's coming in, he's smiley and he's happy, and I'm going, okay, training will be alright, especially in my early years where I couldn't compete with him. So I was thinking, it'll be alright, and then there's something maybe he hadn't played that well on the weekend, and he just comes in, his steam coming out his ears, and I'm like, oh jeez, I'm in for a tough one today.
The fact then that your playing opportunities were so few and far between at the Magpies, how did you handle that?
Well, sort of what I was saying before, in my first 3 years I just wasn't good enough. So it wasn't really hard to take because I sort of knew where I was at. So I was kind of like, well, I'm getting absolutely dominated in the VFL. I'm in no position to get a game in the seniors. So it was only in my 4th and 5th year that I was going, I'm playing well enough to play, and I'm not getting a go, is where I started to get a bit frustrated with it all, and think I better start looking to see what else is out there, sort of thing. So, but yeah, my first 3 years I was just trying to take it all in, and I made a heap of good mates there, and I'm still really good mates with them now. So yeah, 4th and 5th year, Scott Selwood came to the footy club. I spent a lot of time with him, and he was unreal for my footy development, and that's when I started to look around a bit and go, okay, I reckon I could have an impact at this level, and had that confidence to go for it.
Yeah, so tell me about the move across to Hawthorne, leaving one huge club and going to another huge club in Melbourne.
I couldn't speak highly enough of the Pies either. I absolutely love the footy club, I love the people involved, and I loved everything about it there. The only reason I left is for opportunity, because at the time, Bucks finished up and Craig McRae was taking over, and he called me, and I had 2 years waiting at the Pies or 2 years at Hawks, and Brodie Grundy had just signed 7 years. So I was like, fly, I'd love to stay, mate, but Brodes has just signed 7 years, and I can't sit in the twos behind him for 7 years, so sort of thing. But a year later, Brodes leaves, and if I had a crystal ball, if I had a crystal ball, I would have stayed, because of how much I loved it at the time. But also, Hawks were amazing as well. So I just had a really good experience at both. Hawks looked after me really, really well, and because I love the Pies so much, I would have stayed. But I also don't regret leaving because of the opportunities and the people I met at Hawks.
Played the 3 games in 5 years at the Magpies, yet to kick a goal in the big time. Max Lynch has got his first AFL goal right there.
Again, I suppose my AFL experience has been more from the relationships I've made and the experiences I got, rather than my impact on the field, because I didn't have a massive impact on the field, I suppose. So At VFL level, I felt like I really held my own and made a bit of a name for myself, but I just didn't get that at AFL, I think, which I would have loved to get, but so it's not the way the cookie crumbled in the end.
Tries to break away, Frost just threw it away. Here's Lynch in the congestion. Lynch, it's coming around. It's a goal of the Hawks. Level ball game.
When did concussions start to have a major impact on your football career?
So I had 6 at the Pies, 6 concussions, but they were all like, I get a pretty big knock, and there wasn't any that I was proper lights out, but I had some pretty good ones at the Pies, and but they didn't last very long, the symptoms and effects of it. So there was one that I got, and then Tom Hickey took a screamer on me, or attempted to take a screamer on me, and kneed me in the back of the head, and I thought I was a chance to play the next week, so I tried to play the rest of the game, but then they ended up calling me off because I was just falling over my own 2 feet and couldn't see the ball in the lights and that sort of stuff. So I was away with the fairies on the bus ride home, and obviously wasn't myself, but the next week I was fine and I could play the next week and felt fine with it myself, and I know the difference now. So that at the Pies was fine, and even though I had 6, my recovery time was really good. But then round 1 of 2021 or 2022, I can't remember, but got selected to play in the ones for Hawks. So I just moved, and I was like, oh, how good's this? So I just got my opportunity, moved to a new club, got picked for round 1. Like, it's coming together. And then second quarter, a head clash with one of the North Melbourne blokes, and pretty much proper knocks me out. And again, I was like, I've just got my opportunity, and my whole family's come to watch and that sort of stuff, and I'm laying on the ground, and I was just thinking, like, get up. You got to pretend that it's nothing and keep playing. So I played the next 3 minutes, and again, fell over my own 2 feet, went down, took a mark in the goal square, kicked it out on the full, and then I thought I was running onto the bench for my own, like, just my rotation, my normal rotation, and the doctor's there on the side laying west, and I sort of got there, and I was blowing up at him saying, like, "No, mate, I'm fine," and with a few more words. Then he's like, "No, mate, like, you can either sit there on the bench and not come back on, or you can come down the races because we're going down there," sort of thing. And I was like, all right, I'll go down the race. And then as soon as we got to the race, I just started bawling my eyes out, just because I was just going, like, of course this happens, I just get an opportunity and then this happens, sort of thing. So I was bawling my eyes out, and he sort of pulled up and he's like, "Hey, mate, you know that this isn't normal, like, this isn't right." And yeah, because I was away with it. So then pretty much went home, and my partner drove me home, Izzy, and my mum and dad met me there, and yeah, I just couldn't keep my emotions in check for days. Like, it was either like periods of real bad aggression and then really low pit sort of thing, which isn't me. I'm usually quite a level person. So that lasted for 6 weeks-ish, and then slowly started getting back into the swing of things. Like, I couldn't sit up and stand down very well, and sit up and lie down well, and couldn't drive well and that sort of stuff. And then finally got back to played a few games in the VFL, finally built up to play in the AFL, and then just got a light tap and I'm out again. So it sort of came like I was fine for the first 6 hits that were pretty decent at the Pies, but then that 7th one was, I think it just got me in a good spot and sort of rattled me and sort of took away my base a little bit. So then the next 2 were just a bit light, and it sort of just, they were getting lighter and lighter, and my recovery time was getting longer and longer with worse effects and not being myself for a long period of time. So it sort of just got too clear that it was going in the wrong direction, I suppose, and the doctors knew that, I knew that, and it sort of came to a point where we just done that last one where it was a nothing hit, but I was having terrible episodes that it just went and saw them, and pretty much they agreed that it was probably right for me to stop playing, which I, even though it sucks, and I agreed with as well, because I didn't want it to be that my latest one was an 8 to 10 week period where I wasn't feeling myself. I didn't want the next one to be 6 months, and then the one after that to be a year, and then maybe I never recover, sort of thing. So I was just sort of trending the wrong way, and even though it's hard to deal with, it's sort of the right one, I suppose.
So in the aftermath of some of those head knocks and the subsequent concussion, it wasn't just when am I going to be fit to train and play again? But you found that it was starting to affect you like in day-to-day life, just in those little moments as well?
Yeah, massively. So, again, I'm not an angry guy, but when I'm also almost getting in a fight in the supermarket because someone bumped my basket that I'm holding, or my dog smacking the door to come inside and then turn around to smack the door to go straight outside, and I'm absolutely blowing up, like that's not me. And I don't like feeling like that as well, where I don't have my emotions in check. So,
did that scare you, that change? Or
yeah.
What you saw that you were capable of
yeah.
becoming as a result of the head knocks?
Massively, yeah. That part rattled me, that I just didn't have control over what I was doing. And I was letting things affect me a lot more than I usually would, like being those massive highs, massive lows, or sort of more massive anger episodes and massive depressive episodes. So, it was just sort of like, even though I love footy, it just wasn't worth it. Like I want to be a dad one day that can play with kids and not feel like I'm just going to be a vegetable sort of thing and not have any control over myself. So I just didn't want to mess around with it. You know, there's a lot more to life than footy.
What did that do for the relationships of the people closest to you as they were seeing you going through this quite traumatic time?
Yeah, my dad was pretty black and white about it, that he didn't want me to play anymore, pretty much, and because he's just going, mate, it's not worth it, sort of thing. And Izzy was really big on it as well, because I suppose she saw the most of it. So everyone was pretty similar, that they knew that it was affecting me pretty bad, but also all of them were so supportive. So that's what I mean. Like, I've had a bit of stuff go wrong, but I've got a lot of stuff in my life that's really, really great. So, I mean, even though it wasn't ideal in terms of a footy thing, I mean, it could have been a lot worse if I didn't have the people around me.
Is there any resentment towards the game because something that you put a lot of your effort and hard work into was taken away from you through no fault of your own?
No, I don't think it's definitely not anger towards the game. I suppose that's just the game. And I just kind of feel like I was stiff. With a couple of things, I just feel like, it's just sort of tough luck in a way. A couple of them were my fault, sort of bad technique going back with the flight, or probably should have done a J-shaped mark instead of just going straight back like that. So, I mean, a fair few of them were my fault. The head clash, I mean, I couldn't have done much different, and then the other two it is what it is. So, no, I don't feel angry towards anyone. I don't feel angry towards the game. I love the game, and I love the way that it's played, sort of thing. So, I just feel unlucky.
What can you bring, do you think, from your time in the AFL into this role with the Tigers?
I think, because even though I didn't play a lot of games, I think I spent 7 or 8 years in Melbourne with a lot of different coaches. So I think I've picked up a lot of good things and probably a lot of bad things as well, that I'm happy to leave at the door. So there's a few things that, especially through my time as under development coaches, is a big one. Like, and see how they got the best out of their players and that sort of stuff. So I think I've got a good balance of knowing what I really liked from coaches, and those things that I just thought, they were not good. In some of the things about how players were treated, but also the way of like trying to get the most out of them. So I think sort of trying to pull all those things together, and as well as my time being Hawks AFLW coach, like spending a lot of time with them, that I just met a lot of good people along the way to sort of pick up the little tricks and stuff that they have, and try and incorporate that to this level, I suppose. So,
will it be important as well to strike the balance from that professional football environment coming to Albury, where these guys are doing a job of work during the day, might be a bit tired, who knows what's gone on during the day, and then you're expecting them to train hard and play hard, just to find the right line?
Definitely, and that's probably something that I've had to adjust to a little bit, that the main difference is the time that we have them here, and you know exactly how many blokes you're going to get at footy training in Melbourne, in the AFL, and what time they're going to get there, and what they've done the day before and that sort of stuff. I think there's a lot more variables at this level, and this week it's been 40 degrees every day and blokes are out on a roof and that sort of stuff all day. So I think getting to know the people is a big one. That you obviously do that at all levels, but knowing and trying to build that relationship so that they can tell me that they've had a big day and it's just not worth them coming, and I'm more than happy to hear that, because I think the worst case is that they don't tell me and then someone has an injury and they're out for the year sort of thing. So I think with that sort of stuff is where I've really got it in the front of my mind, that I don't have them for that long, and I need to make it as enjoyable as an experience as I can while they're here, which I try to do. But there's also that line of I'm really competitive as well, and I know that, especially now we're in pre-season, it's not supposed to be easy, it's supposed to be hard. So then I try and join in as much as I can to sort of show that I'm not just going to ask them to do stuff that I wouldn't do myself with them. So I've skipped a lot, and they'll probably let me know as well, but I try and join in where I can.
Max, it's been a pleasure hearing your story. Thank you for sitting down for a chat, and good luck for the season.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers.
The SSNA Ovens and Murray Football Netball League podcast, powered by Solar Plus Electrical.